Newsweek senior editor-at-large and Article 3 Project senior counsel Josh Hammer. Josh, good to see you. I want to start by talking about Pete Hegseth, of course, Trump's pick for Defence Secretary. Now, he's been accused of sexual assault and alcohol abuse, but Donald Trump is sticking by him. You wrote an article for the Daily Mail saying, "Be warned, a secret Democrat plot to sabotage Trump is already underway. The Pete Hegseth witch hunt is just the beginning." Josh, why do you think the Democrats fear Pete Hegseth and the rest of Donald Trump's picks?
Well, Pete Hegseth in particular, they fear because he is someone who is not business as usual at the Pentagon. Now, you look, a lot of people on the right here in America don't like to criticize the Pentagon because you don't want to be seen as in any way going against the military. The reality is that the Pentagon, the Department of Defense here, has an incredible amount of fat. There is just an incredible amount of woke excess in the budget there. It is a very, very expensive Byzantine labyrinth bureaucracy that has a lot that should be trimmed there. And Pete Hegseth is the kind of guy, he's not a company man. He's not someone who came up through the ranks of the Pentagon there. He's a warrior. He's someone who served in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan after 9/11. He was awarded multiple Bronze Stars for his service there. He's someone who's an actual viable threat to the defense contractors, to the Boeings, to the Northrop Grummons of the world, people like that there. So, if your livelihood in Washington, D.C. depends upon access to the Pentagon, upon access to arms shipments and things like that there, he's an actual threat to that. But what they've been doing when it comes to Hegseth, Danica, is slimeball gutter politics of the very most sordid, worst order. Is the Brett Kavanaugh playbook all over again. Back in 2018, when Brett Kavanaugh was nominated to the U.S. Supreme Court, they said he was a serial gang rapist. They threw out 5,000 years of civilizational norms about innocent until proven guilty. They're doing the exact same thing here. NBC News had this long article, completely unsourced. Lots of people anonymous, no one on the record saying he's an alcoholic, he's a this, he's that. He has a rape allegation in there. It is imperative that Donald Trump not yield an inch. You cannot let these tactics succeed. Otherwise, they just won't stop. You got to nip it in the bud right now before he gets back in the office on January 20th.
Oh, absolutely. Now is the time. And I want to show you these very contrasting media reports too, because this speaks volumes. Here you have a news article from when Joe Biden awarded the Bronze Star to an intelligence analyst. The Washington Post called it one of the Army's most prestigious awards. But when Pete Hegseth earned 2 of them, the Post said, actually, they're pretty common. I mean, Josh, this bias reporting, it actually also denigrates the entire military.
Totally. I mean, they're basically saying that anyone who is a Republican, anyone who is vaguely politically right of center, if you are awarded a Bronze Star, and by the way, last I checked, the majority of people serving in the military, the majority of veterans here in the U.S., I'm pretty sure that they're Republicans, not Democrats. So you're basically, as you said, denigrating a majority of the United States military. You're, by definition, as a matter of sheer statistics, you are denigrating the majority of those who have been awarded Bronze Stars, who have been courageous in combat, who have tried to save their fellow Marines and soldiers and midshipmen and so forth there. It's disgraceful. But, look, the mainstream media, every time you think they can't go any lower here in America, they find some new way to one-up themselves and go even lower still. But ultimately, the joke is on them because of all the major institutions in America, the corporate media has, I believe, the like second or third lowest approval rating of any institution. I think Congress is number 1 most unpopular. The media is like second or third. Their popularity, according to Gallup, according to all the major public polls here, their popularity is the lowest it has ever been in modern recorded history. So I guess we'll see what stunt they try to pull next there. But the bad news for them is I think Pete Hegseth. Bad news is that he's going to get confirmed, Danica.
Yeah, look, it's certainly shaping up that way. I'll be watching that one closely. Now let's move on to this brainwashing happening in schools. I was quite shocked to read that a Pennsylvania school teacher told her first graders that boys can be girls and parents can guess their kids' gender wrong. Now, a federal court has subsequently vindicated these parents, finding that the school district violated the parents' constitutional rights by refusing to give these families the right to opt their children out of such lessons. Josh, Trump has been quite vocal about this. He wants to stamp it out, but what can he do to do that? Because this is real woke nonsense that is corrupting young kids.
So first of all, the author of this op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, Max Eden, good friend and a frequent co-author of my own. So I'm very happy that he got this piece in the Wall Street Journal and that we're talking about this very important issue. Look, transgenderism in America, Danica, it's like an 80-20 issue. I mean, this is not a 50-50 jump ball issue. You know, this is not like a pro-Second Amendment, pro-gun control 50-50 swap. It's not a pro-life, pro-abortion kind of thing there. No, the American people are overwhelmingly on this side that there are exactly two genders and we know exactly what they are. One, because God says so in the Bible. Two, because we're not stupid and we just see people. We can reasonably discern that there is male and there is female, and that is what exists, by the way, not just for human beings, but for the entirety of the animal kingdom there. This is an issue that Donald Trump, by the way, helped win the actual presidential election on. It was that ad that the Trump campaign ran where they had Charlemagne the God of all people saying, oh my God, what happened to Kamala Harris? She came out in favor of taxpayer subsidized support for gender mutilation surgeries for illegal alien inmates in prison. And apparently, according to Kamala Harris internal polling, that single ad, Danica, shifted the national electorate 2.7 points, which makes it one of the most successful ads in the entire modern history of American presidential politics. So Trump actually won partially on this issue. I am very optimistic about what he might be able to do in office on it. Again, not just from an executive order perspective, but with Congress as well, because again, not a 50-50 issue. This really is, I think, an 80-20 issue right now.
Yeah, look, that's interesting. But you're right, though. I mean, this is what Donald Trump was indeed part of the reason why he was elected. So I just think it's shocking, though, what's happening in schools. Now, let's talk about Kamala Harris. I've got to say, she is the cash cow. It's been revealed she blew $1.5 billion US in just 15 weeks. Josh, how on earth did the campaign spend that much money during the election?
I have no idea. I actually have no idea what the answer is. I suspect that Kamala Harris's donors do not know what the answer is too, but I suspect that they're having a rather large size of buyer's remorse at this particular point. You know, I saw at least at one point that they built her an impromptu podcast set for the so-called Call Your Daddy podcast. If I'm not mistaken, I think the cost of that impromptu one-time set was like $100,000. And things are so bad for Kamala Harris that the host of that podcast, of this very left-wing podcast, the Call Your Daddy podcast, actually said, oh, wait, my permanent set doesn't even cost $100,000. What the heck are you doing there? So, I mean, I have no idea who is controlling the purse strings with this particular campaign, but this is going to go down as one of the most profligate political campaigns in the entire history of this country, which, by the way, is very fitting because this current administration, the Biden-Harris administration, in which she has served as the nominal putative vice president, also goes down history as one of the most profligate administrations in American history.
Well, actually, I just want to play our viewers that particular line from the host of Call Her Daddy, because I think it's important. Here was what that host said.
The Harris campaign spent like $100,000.
I did see that.
You know about this?
It's hilarious.
To build the studio.
Yeah, that's not true.
Not true. To make it look like it was the studio that you used in LA.
My studio that is gorgeous in Los Angeles doesn't even cost six figures. So I don't know how cardboard walls could cost six figures, but.
But do you think they did that? I mean, you saw it.
Absolutely not. With love to them. Oh my God, it was gorgeous, but like, it wasn't that nice. It wasn't like gorgeous marble. Like, no, that was not six figures.
You know, Josh, what I find funny about this is that Call Her Daddy, they thought, oh, well, we've got this huge coup. We've got Kamala Harris on. Now she's lost, and now the host is coming out slamming this decision to build a set. I mean, no wonder voters could see right through Kamala Harris.
But the fact that she went on that show in the first place is everything that you need to know about why Kamala Harris lost as a candidate. You know, she was not trying to reach the actual swing voters. She was not trying to reach the factory workers in Michigan or the people who are farmers who are tilling the soil in a place like North Carolina or Georgia. She's trying to reach this blue check social media echo chamber. It's frankly the exact same reason that she didn't even make it to the first in the nation Iowa caucuses back in the Democratic primary all the way back in 2020, because she has been surrounded for basically her entire political career, as far as I can tell, by this ridiculous left-wing echo chamber that is telling her to go all in on all the intersectional identity politics issues, go all in on feminism, on transgenderism, on open borders, on all these crazy things there. Otherwise, how can you possibly think that it is a good idea to go on this podcast where the episode that was on apparently before her episode was about the art of a sexual act that I will not name out of respect for the viewers of this particular program. But that is the kind of fare, that is the kind of content, the R-rated content we would say here in the States, that is the kind of content that is on the Call Her Daddy show. And the fact that she thought it would be a good idea for the sitting vice president of the United States to go on that particular show, it's ultimately insulting to the American people, which is why, frankly, that we responded in the election that the way we did.
Yeah, goes on a sex podcast, thinks that she's going to have great success. Go figure. Unbelievable, Josh. Now, look, black Kamala Harris staffers have accused the campaign leadership of mistreatment and outright racial discrimination. This was part of an explosive article in the New York Times, which also revealed that the campaign leadership dismissed concerns that the Democrats were taking their base for granted. Josh, how do you read this? I mean, did the Harris campaign completely blow it?
Well, they blew it for multiple reasons, but my takeaway from this election is that it was not that Joe Biden was to blame for their loss. It was not that Kamala Harris was to blame for the loss. Rather, I think that the Democratic Party as an institution is really what is to blame for the fact that Democrats lost this election. And what I mean by that is because, as we were just saying, they put themselves in a position of their own volition, of their own free will, where they became the party of this very loud, very vocal, but ultimately tiny and statistically insignificant portion of the broader American electorate. They backed themselves into a corner because their consultants, the people on the campaigns, they have all these stupid young millennials with their college degrees, and they're saying, "Oh, all the rage these days is that you can be a woman if you're a man if you want to. All the rage these days is compassion for illegal aliens. Don't worry about the drugs, the fentanyl trafficking in here." That ultimately is why they lost. And again, I have seen no indication since the election, none, that they have learned any of the right lessons, frankly. As someone who wishes them nothing but the worst, though, I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we're all with you here as well. Now, I've got to say, Josh, this really is the gift that keeps on giving, because have a look at this snub that Joe and Jill Biden gave Kamala. Have a look. Oh, Josh, they can't even look at her. They can't even look. You can see that there's tension there.
Yeah, you can cut the tension in that room with a butter knife, frankly. I mean, Joe Biden is clearly still peeved. I actually blame him. I don't think Joe Biden's a particularly good person. I think he's been a bad person, actually, for basically his entire political career, going back at least as far as his tag teaming with Ted Kennedy to Robert Bork during the 1987 U.S. Supreme Court confirmation fight. But despite the fact that he is not a good person, what happened to him in many ways was actually quite wrong, because he was cooed by his own running mate. He was cooed by Kamala Harris. I mean, he was cooed by the very person that he extended an olive branch to by putting her on the ticket in the first place back in 2020. By the way, it's not just Kamala Harris, it's also Barack Obama, for whom Joe Biden was the vice president of the United States. Barack Obama, along with Nancy Pelosi and then Kamala Harris as well. But really, Barack Obama, probably above all, I mean, he was the #1 ringleader here. So Joe Biden, I mean, talk about someone who's been in politics for a half century, literally could not be going out with more of a whimper as opposed to a bang. Donald Trump's been in France. He's been making the rounds. He's got the red carpet treatment there. Do people even remember that Joe Biden is technically the president of the United States right now? Frankly, being here in America, we don't really hear much about him. And again, he can't get out of office soon enough, but already at this point, no one around the world is treating him like he's the president.
Yeah, he's almost the forgotten president. I've got to say, though, January 20 can't come soon enough. Josh Hammer, great to have you on. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much.